Welcome to Rauta, and here we are in Athens. First time to do a trip outside Finnish soil, which is not for a festival, but a gig. However, today's special guest here is not exactly the person who is performing with his band. And now you might be asking, so what's the thing here? What's the deal? Well, we're talking to one of the black metal legends from the Greek scene, going back all the way to the 1980s. That is, right, you got before all the Finnish or Swedish or Norwegian black metal got started. So, the very early days. So, let's welcome the man of the hour, our guest here. Please, sir, do state your name and why you're here with me.
Hello, it's very nice seeing you. Thanks for doing this interview. I am the Magus. You know me from Necromantia, Early Rotting Christ, Our Lord, and most currently my own band, the Magus. So, yeah, I've been doing this for almost 35 years, almost 40. So, yes.
Now, as mentioned with that very vast, very big list, you have been involved in a lot of bands.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for many old school fans, of course, Necromantia is the most important because of the legendary status. But it doesn't end with that, nor Thou Our Lord, or even the relevant, more modern projects. You also were part of Rotting Christ in the past. You did these small one type of side project like Diabolos Rising and
with Mika.
Yeah, Mika Luttinen from Impel Nazarene. So you've been involved in a lot of different bands over these almost 40 decades. How do you have the energy and creativity to get all into this huge amount of bands?
When you're younger and you have less responsibilities and less of everyday obligations, and you have the flame, the urge to create, you can try a lot of things. That's why, besides my main band, which was always Necromantia, I tried different paths, keeping the same dark aspect of the music intact in all the bands, even if it's gothic or industrial or anything like that. So I had the urge to explore music, to create music. Now that I'm a lot older and I have family obligations, work obligations, much more intense, I have less time to do music. That's why I do a lot less stuff, but I'm still going on.
Now, you also been very, very active, like you mentioned, in these newer bands, and you also prior to starting to record this video, you mentioned that you have some new projects going on, which will be once again a new chapter.
It's the thing is that we are finishing actually the second the Magus album now. It's in the mixing mastering process. It's called Demonosophia. It will be released in February, but. We have at works a new band, which is me on vocals. It's George Emmanuel from Lucifer Child on guitars, Tas from Ex-Electric Wizard and Friends of Hell on bass, and Faust, Ex-Emperor and Jevel on drums.
So very international.
We will release a 7-inch, because we like 7 inches, and the music will be not early black metal, but mostly proto-black metal.
Okay.
The bands we like early Venom, Bathory, Celtic Frost, stuff like that. It's a band we do it because we like it.
Yeah. So it's going like back to your roots in a way.
Just for the sake of the music that we like.
Now, one thing that has always puzzled me, and this is of course something that I got to ask many times from other bands that were here very early on, with the Zemials and all, but what is your take on what was the Greek thing so early on happening? Because after all, in the late 80s, when the first Greek black metal scene became reality, the demos were released. This was before the 90s when things changed very much, especially in Norway and Sweden. But you had the head start, but you were kind of overshadowed by these Norwegian bands in a sense, like they got this all that spotlight, so to say. What I'm asking here is, how did you feel about this kind of a change that you were there first, but...
The thing is that the most actually few bands, and mostly the three, like Rotting Christ, Varathon, and Necromantia, we all started in the late 80s. We were in contact with all the bands from Norway and Sweden because of the tape trading, and you know how it was before. The thing is that the spotlight on the Norwegian scene, it was after the incidents that happened.
Yep.
So they got the spotlight from there. Because we started almost a little bit earlier, but then we were growing together. But that happened, the things that happened in Norway, the spotlight of the press, and when I say press, not the in general press, fall on them.
Yeah.
So in a way, they are responsible for making black metal popular.
So they made the black metal
in a way.
Yeah, they made kind
because
of a
they didn't want it, but it happened because of that.
Yeah. Now, one thing that had always been also interesting to me is, where did you all guys figure out? I mean, I of course understand there were like bands like Venom and Celtic Frost or Hellhammer, Bathory and all that stuff, but still there was no one to really like, hey, we have this new thing called second wave black metal or whatever. But yet you were here as a group of people creating this new music style, and what is kind of important for at least younger audience to understand that there is the so-called Greek sound, which is vastly different from Nordic sound and style.
Yeah, the thing in Greece is that, of course, at that time, we were never thinking that, we'll create something new, a new sound. We just playing what we felt, that it was right for us, what we liked, and that's what I still do. I play what I like. But the thing is that in Greece, in the early scene, early black metal scene, and a little bit later, we didn't copy each other. Each band was trying to create their own stuff.
Yeah?
Others successfully, others less successfully. But we didn't, as it happened in Norway, because except the first 6-7 Norwegian bands, all the other bands were copying them.
Yeah.
In Greece, it did not happen that much because every band was trying to figure out their own sound. I think that's what distinguishes us from the Scandinavian scene, that except the main bands like Necromantia, Varathon, Rauta, Christ, the other bands were trying to find their own sound and not just copying us.
Yeah, I noticed when I was recently actually revisiting a lot of old Greek stuff before coming here. Obviously, I wanted to kind of remind myself of all the albums and stuff, and that made me think like, while there are certain similarities, also quite different what Necromantia is doing as opposed to Varathon, as opposed to Rotting Christ, as opposed to Divisor, and then again, of course, Semi Al-Kabir. But they all have one thing I feel in common, is that there's this kind of a warm sound. Does it have something with the time or studio?
Not time on studio, but it's more because I think Greek bands were focused more on the atmosphere of the song, and less in aggression. Like the Norwegian scene was more aggressive and in your face. The Greek scene was a little bit more atmospheric in creating a dark atmosphere when listening to the music. At least we were trying to. And that is also another characteristic of the scene. It was a little bit more melodic too.
Yeah.
A little bit more heavy metal too.
Well, yeah, that's very obvious, especially with the kind of earlier Necromantia things where like they're quite progressive in the songwriting and all. So they are not exactly, if someone was thinking, okay, I want to hear something similar from Greece than Marduk or Mayhem, and they're like, this is nothing like it.
No.
It's almost like a whole different genre.
Yeah, not even Rotting Christ, not even Varathon, not even Divisor. No one was. We are playing the music that we like, and eventually we created our sound because we played what we like. It was not intentional. I was talking with Sakis, the other guy, the other days, and we were saying exactly that. Who will imagine that playing what we like when we are kids and teenagers, it will influence people in the future? We didn't imagine that. We just played.
Yeah. Now, one thing is also interesting. What were your main inspirations back in the days? Because obviously late 80s or even early 90s, you really couldn't have been inspired by what is nowadays known as kind of a classic black metal. So you must have had your own bands and sources that made you pick the guitar or microphone or whatever the instrument is.
Actually, we have the original sources of our inspiration, which for me it was Merciful Fate, Venom, Bathory, and Celtic Frost. These were the bands that define black metal. All of them pretty different with each other.
Yeah, very, very different.
But this is where our inspiration came from. And also we're listening also to a lot of thrash metal, proto-death metal, a lot of heavy metal, we still do. So our metal influences came from there, from the source, you can say. But for me personally, getting an influence is not only from a music or from a band. I can listen to classical music and get inspired to write something. I can see a landscape and trigger something in my mind. I can read a book and trigger something in my mind. Everything is an inspiration. But concerning metal, yeah, these proto bands, for me, these four pillars of black metal, Fate, Venom, Frost, and Bathory, were my main inspiration for.
Now, this sparks another question related to inspiration and differences between the scene. I mean, it's quite different if you go to, say, Norwegian or Swedish or Finnish for that matter landscape.
Yeah.
And especially Norway, where they have mountains, it's very different from Mediterranean or Greek atmosphere. And then again, your history goes way back. So what I feel as someone coming from Finland, I feel like we're some kind of barbarians coming from the woods, where you have this huge history with civilization, philosophy, of course, wars, and a lot of things in
as always.
Yeah. So how important, is this whole Greek history or philosophy in the bigger context of the sound and music?
It is because you are learning this since you are a kid. So when you're a teenager or even an adult, you already have this passed through you that you are coming from 2,000 years and that your far, far away ancestors did these things. It did influence us even on subconscious level. We may not have snow or ice like you have in the north, but ours is more subterranean.
Yeah.
And especially concerning the, let's say, religion in Greece at that time, or the occult traditions of that time, there were a lot darker traditions besides the 12 gods that everybody knows. Mm-hmm. Like Kavir might tell you more about it because they are more into it. But there are some subterranean occult traditions in Greece that are still practiced today. So knowing from 6 years old that you're coming from that, of course it influences you. And sometimes you draw inspiration without knowing it. Just it comes to you. Without saying in your songs, mention the name Hades, for example, but you draw inspiration from Hades and from what you learned from since you were 6. The thing is that in Scandinavia also, the pagan, as they call them, traditions are also very strong, but they are much newer.
Yeah, definitely.
And with a lot of similarities with the Greek, because in my opinion, all religions are the same thing. They change names. So I think in Greece it's as I said, it's something that you do since you are a kid, and and even in Greek Christianity, if you see, it's different from the Catholics. It's more esoteric and more inside than outside.
Yeah,
and that's what made us maybe create different things.
What sparked you to go after the so-called devil's music when you were a kid? I mean, we mentioned already these upbringing things, like you said, but was there a specific moment when you realized I'm not going to do pop music or classical music or whatever, but where was this call coming from that you were suddenly drawn into the world of witches and pentagrams and all?
First of all, since I was a small kid, I didn't like the church at all. I remember there's a story that my grandmother told me. You know, in Greek churches, at the ceiling there's an eye. It's supposed to be the eye of God that sees you all the time.
Okay.
Second time I went to church with my grandmother, I was 6 or 7. There was a broom outside the church to clean.
Yeah.
So I go inside and I pick up the broom, and my grandma says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I want to poke this eye that always watches me."
Yeah.
So I was kind of rebellious in that sense since I was very young. I came in contact with the occult in my 14, 15 years old. I even presented Satanism and magic in school at the class of religion. The teacher was saying that there are these, they do magic and Satanism, and I said, I can make you a presentation. I brought my books, not much at that time when I was 14. I made the presentation, and he said to me, I will keep the books to study them, and I will return them to you. He never gave my books back.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so I was starting to get into that from the beginning. Musically, I started playing punk, because that's the only thing I could play when I was starting to. So I had a couple of punk and hardcore bands, but when we started learning to play better, and of course what was listening to was metal, we started then getting more thrashy, more death, and then switching directly to black metal in the late 80s. Yeah, my inspiration, my first inspiration was Venom.
Okay.
Which I got them in, I bought Welcome to Hell when I was 15. And I remember I was coming to my English class. I had a friend, she was listening to metal too. And she told me, I got a great album. I said, me too. He said, what's it called? I said, Venom. And she says, Venom, mine too. What album did you use? She says, black metal. I said, Welcome to Hell. And then we exchanged the albums to listen to each other. And the turning point after it is on my 16th birthday when some friends brought to me as a gift the Show No Mercy album. I say, guys, why nobody knew what Slayer was?
Yeah.
Why did you bought me this album? They told me because you would like the cover, you know. The
Yeah, classic.
I said, yeah, it's great. And when we played it, after the party, and when everyone is gone, it was us. And we put it on the turntable. We're like, wow, Slayer. And that's what got me into it.
Yeah, so kind of a very classic story in the sense
Yeah.
Now, how did you end up meeting like-minded people to actually form a band? Because, I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, it was like everybody else was pretty much listening to, say, softer stuff, even if it was metal. I mean, it was more people, lots of my friends were into rock and music, and it wasn't easy to find people who were like into death metal, thrash metal, not to mention black metal. So I'm wondering how it was for you, because you're a little bit older than me, so obviously it must have been a smaller scene already those years.
First, you start usually from school when you spot the other metal guy wearing a T-shirt.
Yeah.
We were, because you can easily spot him because there were not that many. Okay, there were, I don't know, 5, 10 people in the whole school. So then you form a company with them. And from them you meet other people from other schools or from other close areas to you, and then you start hanging around. And then you start talking, okay, I play the guitar, I play the bass a little bit, and then it starts to happen. But it was, it was not popular.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
We were counting. It was easy to spot the metalhead back in the days. Now things are different. Maybe these girls listen to black metal, I don't know. But in the days, you wanted to declare that you are a metalhead.
Yeah, of course. I remember that. That's why it feels so different these days. Everybody has the new music just on Spotify, YouTube, whatever. Everything is a couple of clicks away, really.
Yeah.
If you're wondering about some band, you just start Googling and, oh, yeah, this band and this guy and blah, blah, blah. But in the late 80s and early 90s, it was really different.
It was different. It was really difficult to find. You were reading the thanks list.
Yeah.
To find which bands.
Yeah, I remember those. You were discovering, like, okay, this guy thanks this one. Have they played together and all that stuff?
And then the fanzines, which is something that I really miss because it was genuine fun love for the music that was
Yeah.
making it. And from there you can discover a lot of bands and then write to them, buy their demo.
Yeah, which we are now talking about tape trading days. Obviously,
Yes.
that played a big part, especially in the 80s and early 90s, before the whole internet, blew up in a way. So obviously, people were sending tapes and writing letters and all that stuff.
And the funny thing is, it was almost exclusively for the extreme metal, death, let's say thrash, black, grindcore. Only this kind of metal was doing this.
Yeah.
Heavy metal bands didn't do that much of tape trading, or they were always heavy metal bands were always looking for the big contract in the big label.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We just wanted to make music. And
So it was almost like the whole mainstream and underground was very divided in that sense. Like underground, when the underground kept in contact, creating networking, while big bands were looking for some kind of a rock star dream.
Which in most cases never happened.
Yeah, true. So you made already international friends very early days.
Yeah.
Are there certain key points that, okay, writing to this person or writing to that band changed your life for better or worse?
I mean, I was going I had a PO box and I was going every Friday, and it was like, when a kid in Christmas opened his presents, it was like getting all opening the demos and, oh, this is a nice cover. This shaped us in a way because we were underground, but we were much more known internationally than the people who were looking for the mainstream album.
Yeah.
I mean, there are still some bands that were looking to sign with EMI or something like that, and Rotting Crash were already touring.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Now, one thing I always wanted to ask, this probably is mentioned many times already in some interviews, so I'm kind of poking an old horse here, but as you know, many black metal people, especially more than other styles, went all the way to fantasy literature, role-playing games and all that stuff, and now you can pretty much guess where we're going. The very early Necromantia albums, which has this cover, which is of course like, I wouldn't call it a copy, but it's very much like the same kind of idea what was already in the Ravenloft games.
It's kind of a copy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'm asking here, how did you end up having this beautiful piece of a graphic, which is not exactly the same, but it's very obviously the
Because
same?
we saw it and we liked it, and we hired a painter to do a similar like this, but not exactly like this, but similar, and change this. Because we liked. I mean, we were. I personally was reading me and Baron Blood also. Besides the occult tradition knowledge and books, we were also heavy into fantasy and horror. So that I say that you read the book and then something triggers in your mind. And since when we were even teenagers in school, we were playing these role-playing games.
So you too?
Yeah, I played. We played the table.
Yeah.
And sometimes on computer.
Yeah.
I still have my character. It was a warrior mage. And yeah, we did it. There were nights and nights of playing and drinking and smoking and playing these games. But after a few years, we grew over them.
Yeah.
Some people are still playing in my age. I know them. But for us, it was. We focused more into the music and to other more serious stuff. So we outgrow the role playing. But we did play.
I was asking merely for a couple of reasons. First of all, the obvious same idea, but also because I remember my background coming from the fantasy books and sci-fi and a little bit horror too, was exactly like that. We played role-playing games and we were very inspired by these kind of classic stories. If you think about minotaurs and all that stuff, these are very much tied to folklore and mythology and all that stuff. And I remember I was thinking myself when I was a teenager, like, I must be the weird guy because I play role-playing games, but I'm also into this world of death metal, black metal, and so forth. And when I, got to know other guys from Finland, for example, from the black metal scene, I realized, okay, these guys are doing exactly the same. They're playing the same games, they're listening to the same kind of music, making same music too. And I was like, what the hell?
Yes, I had the same conversation with Trey from Orbit Angel. He was heavily into our role-playing games.
Yeah.
And we were telling and exchanging ideas.
But doesn't it feel weird that, for example, in Trey's case, he's from United States, you are from Greece, I'm from Finland, and I know people from like Norway, including Morthes, which I asked about this once upon a time, and they all seem to have similar ideas. They start playing these games and reading these books, and then they end up making this music without knowing it's happening exactly on the other side of the world too. So is there something subconscious which makes us interested in these particular topics, or is it just a coincidence?
I think with that, okay, chess is a very nice game. It sharpens the mind, it's a lot of strategy and tactics, but it's just a military game. I mean, yeah, you got to have a little bit of, you have to have a little bit more wilder fantasy, and a thirst for the metaphysical. It's because we like these metaphysical monsters, demons, minotaurs, spells, magic.
Yeah.
So it was not only war, it was all this behind it. So I think people who have an interest in the metaphysical world, the fantasy world, it's a world where all the metaphysical happens.
Yeah.
In a fake sense, but it happens.
But it sparks the imagination very much
Exactly.
and gives you an idea of that, hey, what if these spells and demons and devils are actually more than just...
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. I think if you have this, you will eventually, at our age, back then, you would eventually end in that.
Now, talking about the early days, because writing lyrics is very, very different when you're a teenager as someone, say, over 50. How has your style over the years changed in this sense?
A little bit. And I say, my lyrics were always the most serious part for me, before even music. Because when I write lyrics, they define how the music will sound. But what I see in the latest years, compared to my early lyrics, it's that it's less warlike, if you know what I mean. I don't care for blasphemy anymore.
Yeah.
I know how things happen and how the vocal world works, so I don't feel a need to blaspheme anymore. It's pretty teenager thing, which is healthy to do, and you have to do it to go past it. But for me, it's juvenile now.
Yeah.
So I'm beyond that. I'm going into deeper things than just saying "fuck Christ."
Yeah, of course.
It's still "fuck Christ." I agree with that, but I don't have to declare it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like old news at that point in a way. Yeah. And of course, when you're younger,
you have more,
you have more energy and also more limitations with the language. It's harder to make smart lyrics when you're a little bit more limited.
And also, you know less of how the world works when you're younger.
True.
You realize things as you in all aspects of life. So this "fuck Christ, fuck church," it's still an idea, but there's no need to say it anymore.
Yeah, it kind of gets old after a while. Now, one thing also is interesting is like when people are in their teens or 20s, they feel pretty immortal. They can drink, use drugs, sleep all days and wake up all nights and all that stuff. But by the time you are hitting 40, not to mention 50, some kind of a midlife, not necessarily crisis, but midlife event takes place, and you have a very, very different approach to what life is, what the death is, and all that stuff. Has this, affected your creativity as an artist, like how you see what you need to do and what not?
No, and yes. The thing is that I divide my worlds very strict. I have the metaphysical world and the physical world. That's why I say in the physical world I'm an agnostic and atheist. But in the metaphysical world I'm a Luciferian and Dragonian.
Okay.
So sometimes these two worlds collide. And that's what I always say, that's where magic happens. When those two worlds meet each other. But in my everyday life, I don't mix these things. Okay, this is something deeper for me, the metaphysical. The turning point, I think, because I have friends in bands in the age that you mentioned, that are still how they were in their 20s.
Okay.
The turning point is when you have a kid.
Yeah, I agree.
And you have an actual family, not just a partner, an actual family. And that's the turning point, and you see things a little bit differently.
Now, you are not also, as much as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not a big fan of live performance. You're a studio musician more so. So what's the deal with you about live?
Everybody asks that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I don't like that much live black metal live shows.
Okay.
Because I think that black metal is a music you should experience alone, in your mind, in your soul, to fully understanding. I like live shows. Maybe I'll go to a thrash metal live shows and bang my head and have my beers, or something completely different like Bramstein, which I enjoy the live shows.
A very good live band, yeah.
But for me, and even for me, for my music, there was some thinking with Baron Blood to perform live. But we wanted to make it really theatrical, because our purpose was always to create images with our music, images in the mind of the people, and we wanted to make the images to project them to them, at least how we understand them. And we wanted to do super theatrical, fully shows, but there were no money.
Yeah.
And then after years, when there were money, we didn't have the urge anymore to do it. So my only live performances are with Rotting Christ, when I was playing with them keyboards, and a couple of guests that I did for them on vocals in some late shows. I don't enjoy black metal playing live. Most of the times I find it boring.
Okay.
Live. Because for me it's not something to share. It's not rock and roll music.
Yeah, that's true.
Rock and roll music is to share and have fun. Your friends drink beers and everything. But black metal for me is something different.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a holy in that sense, or unholy for that matter.
I always laugh about this. I said it will be me and Fenris who will stay unlived forever.
Well, that's a good point. He's another legend for sure who doesn't enjoy playing live. I guess he hasn't been doing live for like 30 years now or whatever. But when you created Yoth Iria with Jim Mutilator and all, and it was almost like a throwback to your early Rotting Christ days. And I remember how I was so enthusiastic about this MCD you did first, and I was like, wow, this is something like best coming from Greek.
It was really great stuff.
I really fucking love that stuff. And of course, when Yoth Iria played in Finland, I was kind of disappointed when I heard that you were not coming. But then again, I kind of knew this.
Jim knew it from the first time.
Yeah.
Okay, I will sing because he sent me some demos.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that's good. I can sing and also write a little bit of music, write the lyrics. Because I had in the first two albums, the mini, and I had a lot of involvement in the music and the lyrics. But man, you know that you have to find some other guy to play live. I said, okay.
So, but you were honest about it, so he knew. But how does it make you feel that there's someone else, doing your role live?
Okay. For example, he's my friend.
Yeah.
Orestes is a friend of me and a student of fencing from the Order of the Emerald Hand who does the live shows. So he always comes and asks me, how will I sing this? I said, well, however you want, however you feel. I did it my way, do it your own way. So it's okay. It's okay. I don't have for example, if I would do a show, if you remember a couple of years back, the Merciful Fate shows.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, I would love to do something like that, but we don't have the money.
Yeah.
Even now we have the money because we were offered a lot every year we got offers. Play live, play live. I said, first of all, guys, now I'm not playing live as Necromantia because Necromantia doesn't exist.
Yeah.
If it is to make a live show, it will be the Magus performing Necromantia, not Necromantia.
Yeah, makes sense.
And we were offered a lot of money.
Yeah.
Even for tours, especially in Latin America and stuff like that. But I said no.
And you're not the only ones, obviously. There are lots of people, including, I guess, Fenris, and of course bands like Burzum and whatever, and they're offered big sums of money, like make this special thing happen. And I think it's very, very honorable thing that you can say no to a lot of cash, because I know many people would be like, okay, I never wanted to play live, but now if we're talking about 5-figure numbers, like, let's do it. What do you think about these bands who are making the change because of money?
If they didn't do it and they do it because of money, it sucks.
Yeah.
I understand, because my music was never my work.
Yeah.
It was never the thing that put bread on my table. Okay, I have another work. Okay, sometimes in complements with a few, but it was never my main. And I chose it that way, because this way I do whatever I want.
Yeah. No compromises in that sense.
No compromises in that sense. I respect the people who are living out of music, okay, and I understand the difficulties they have. Write an album every 2 years or 1 year, go on tour for 200 days, because they get their money out of it.
Yeah.
So I respect them. But people who suddenly decide to do it for the money, no. For me, it sucks.
It seems like there is just some kind of I don't know what's the word to describe it, but it seems some kind of like a lot of old bands which were never exactly known for live and whatever, suddenly they are doing like before we die kind of a tours, and they are sometimes performing these shows, and I'm not really sure what to think of it, because as a fan I'm kind of like grateful, like nowadays.
Because I will see them.
Yeah, because like Triptychon playing Celtic Frost, for me it was like, man, now I finally got to hear the songs from back in the 80s live, but at the same time it feels also kind of weird because it's not the same band anymore, and this is of course partially because we've lost people at this age. There are a lot of old comrades that are now dead and buried, and things are not the same with the lineups even, so it's kind of not even possible to do that.
Yeah, that disturbs me personally. With bands like who, for example, one of their main members had died. They don't do any new discography, and they do live shows exploiting the name they had when that guy died. I hate that. I really despise it in a way. So no, I don't like it. I don't respect that.
Now, talking a little bit outside metal, one thing I find very fascinating is when we were setting up this interview and all, and you do fencing, which is
historical fencing.
Historical fencing. Yeah, this is very important part. Sorry, and this is of course once again tied to interests in history and beyond. But I want to
even from the fantasy games.
Yeah, exactly. So, what was how did you end up learning and now teaching historical fencing?
The thing is that I was doing martial arts since my 20s, Asian martial arts.
Okay.
And I also was doing sport fencing.
Okay.
Now my son does sport fencing. But when I was doing the sport fencing, I always felt a little bit weird that it's fencing, but it's not. Fencing was not like that. I had this confusion, and at some point, I think it was around 2004, 20, that I realized there's historical fencing too, with historical weapons in weight, in shape, and that's what I got into it, and I was stuck there ever since, because I love swords.
Yeah.
Since I was
I understand. Yeah.
And I love hitting people with them.
Yeah, makes sense.
And got hit back too. So it all made sense to me because I love history too. It all made sense. Okay, that's what I want to do.
Now,
And eventually it came a big part of my work. It didn't start it as that. It
Yeah.
started as a personal thing, and now it's a more professional thing.
Now, one thing that was also been interesting to me, that's much like you, I have this martial arts background, and I always felt it's kind of a weird that a lot of bands sing about violence, war, weaponry, and all that stuff, while having very, very little to do about it. Like, feels like
Yeah.
a little bit odd. Do you think it's kind of a like fake to sing about battles and fights and all that stuff when?
No, it's okay. I understand because you're an artist. I mean, like, if you're a writer and you write about, I don't know, a mental institution, you don't have to be crazy.
Yeah, true.
So I understand that they write it in a fantasy level,
Yeah.
which I can accept because you are making art. Okay,
Yeah.
music is art. But I always wanted to have some knowledge of how even unarmed combat or kenjutsu or ninjutsu. I was doing jiu-jitsu. I always wanted to have what happens
Yeah.
when you physically get engaged. And
Yeah, that's quite a
not
different
just-
world.
Just as punching and kicking, there are a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't blame people who are not into that and are writing about battles. It's okay. It's a fantasy.
But
It's
would
a story.
But would you say it would be kind of a beneficial for a lot of bands to explore this physical and violent world, maybe, but nonetheless?
Not so much because what we are learning in our schools of martial arts is a one-to-one combat. It doesn't affect if you are describing your thoughts about a battle with armies.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so because one-to-one combat, it's urban life, it's totally different. None of us, I haven't fought in a war. There are bands that have been engaged in wars, personally,
Yeah.
which they have hand-to-hand experience to write about an actual battle between armies. But I'm not sure that would benefit them anything in their writing because they're still making a fantastical story.
All right. Now, a little bit staring into the future before we call it quits. And you mentioned new stuff is coming out. Obviously, I won't be asking about live because they're not likely to happen. But these albums obviously these projects have some kind of a release schedule. And if we look in the future, where would we roughly can imagine these new albums or projects coming out in various formats?
The second the Magus album, is called Diamond Sophia, and it comes out in February. We are
Okay,
mixing
so
and
quite
mastering.
quickly.
Yeah, mixing and mastering now. Actually, it will be finished in a week. So in a couple of weeks, the first single will be available. The other band that I was telling you, with international members, it's called Hexbane,
Okay.
the name. We will release a 7-inch around April, May.
Okay. So quite quickly that too.
Yeah. And there are a few other things, but I cannot disclose them
Yeah,
yet.
of course.
Because they're not finalized. I don't know for how many years I will still going on playing. As long as I have inspiration. I mean, when Baron Blood died, I said, I stopped, fuck it. I stop everything. And I have people coming to me, no, continue the band. I said, band is not going to continue because it was us and 50% is now gone. So,
Yeah.
But after some months, and because of the COVID too, where I got involved with Euphoria, things have started to growing again concerning creative process. And I said, okay, I'll do it, but on a totally different vehicle, not Necromantia. And that's why I started the Magus. We released an album 2 years ago, and the new one will be out.
Well, we are of course very happy about it. Now, one thing is kind of a classic and kind of a silly but also important question is, now if you could give some advice to your younger version, say maybe 30 years ago, what would you do different, or has everything worked out as you intended? What kind of a tip you would give
To myself?
to yourself or someone who is at the very same age now?
For
Like,
myself, I would say nothing. You try lots of things. Some were good, some were bad, some were average. But you did try, and I congratulate you for trying all this stuff. To the younger guys that are starting a band is, guys, try to create something, not just copy, because we have a lot of copies from everywhere. And I know it's very difficult nowadays to create something new, because everything has been played.
yeah, kinda.
But do it in a way that you are not copying another band. Try to make music yourself. When I was working as a sound engineer a couple of decades ago, a band asked me, okay, what do we have to play in order to sell?
Okay, that's
I
it.
said, okay, man, the bands that are selling never made this question to themselves.
Exactly.
That's my answer, I thought.
Yeah, I guess it's more about like work hard rather than
Work
think
hard,
about.
conditions, how you, lots of stuff. But don't ask that. Play what you like, and it might happen for you. It might not.
Okay. Now, obviously, I want to think that there are some new people in the audience who are like, okay, this is vastly interesting character, and he has so many bands. So instead of going all the discography is true and all, maybe mention one or two albums that you're kind of like most proud of you ever achieved, so that the audience can really start their career into the world of Magus in that sense. Which album or two would you mention? Like, check out these first if you want to know what is going on inside the history of this
I would
man.
say a little four, maybe.
Okay.
I saw from Necromantia the Scarlet Evil Witch in Black. I think it was our best album, and we never managed to surpass it. From my latest work, check the Magus previous album, because it has a lot of interesting diversities in it. Also, the second Our Lord, Apollyon, which was released, I don't remember it. And from Diabolus Rising, which is more experimental stuff, the first album, the 666. So you can get roughly an idea of what
they
I'm
are
doing.
very different all together while still maintaining the Magus thing going on. All right, I think we will wrap this one for today, and hopefully we will come back to more topics in the future. Now, meanwhile, I want to talk to you, dear audience, right there. Now, I hope we get a little bit of an idea what was going on back in the days and what's happening now with this fantastic, legendary man here. And you should be doing your homework right now. Get into the world of old and new Greek black metal. Find what's so fascinating about it. And of course, when you really start digging it, I always say, if you like it, go buy it. And more so, do it before it's too late, because there's always time for good music. So make the magic happen. This is Athens, this is Magus, this is Rauta. Now off you go, stay metal. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much too.
Like I said, we could have been talking for hours and hours, but eventually we have to.
People will get bored also.
Yeah, and also I realized at some point you also have to.